one of the things that you need to understand, if you're younger, you're in your 20s, even if you become great at something, it doesn't matter what the great is, a coach, an athlete, a salesperson, you're going to have bad stretches. Can you handle that? Because even for superstars, there are bad stretches. And Patrick Mahomes, people now are saying, what is going on with Patrick Mahomes? There has never been in the history of the NFL, ever, a quarterback ever that came into the league and that was great immediately and then just kept rising. Like a tree, he just grew to the sky. It's never happened. Tom Brady was a slow, methodical build. He was winning. He wasn't great. Peyton Manning, rough rookie year, good year 2 and 3, ugly regression year 4. Brett Favre, he was great early and then terrible in year 8. Aaron Rodgers didn't play for 3 years. And then when he did, he had a losing record. John Elway was known for Super Bowl blowouts before running back Terrell Davis arrived in Denver. Dan Marino had an unbelievable year 2. He threw for 5,000 yards when people were throwing for 3,000 yards, and he never equaled it. He never equaled it. Super Bowl first year, amazing year 2, never equaled it. Folks, it doesn't matter. You go to Hollywood. Tom Hanks didn't have his first hit. He was a slow build. He was on TV before movies. His first hit was big 10 years in. Then he went 10 to 12 years where everything was amazing. Saving Private Ryan, Toy Story, Apollo 13, and then about 2003, 2004, 2005, Lady Killers in the Terminal. And now he's back on top. Like, it doesn't work that way. Nobody is great early and great always. If you're a public figure, you're a politician, you're a quarterback, you're a movie star, you're an entertainer, you're a singer, you're going to have a bad album. It's just the way it works. That's why moxie and metal and toughness is so valuable. And the funny thing about Mahomes is people are like, there's regression. I would argue there is no regression. This is who he is. He's always been streaky. It's almost as if his highs were so great that we just forget about everything after it. So remember the year he threw for 50 touchdowns? We were like, unbelievable, the best player ever. Do you know his Super Bowl year the following year? He threw for 26. And at the end of that Super Bowl year, his last 6 games, he was kind of bad. 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. And then he got to the playoffs, and he was unbelievable. Against Houston, I think it was Tennessee. Mahomes' whole career. We didn't see him for a year. Then he was unbelievable. And then the next year, his Super Bowl year, he cut touchdown passes cut in half, and he was bad at the end of that year. Then he was great in the postseason. That's kind of what he is. He's like an NBA shooter. His highs are high, but he's streaky. Mahomes in college, he was streaky. I don't know what he was in high school. Probably somewhat streaky. In the NFL, he's a little streaky. So it doesn't, even if you're great at something, there is no, you're amazing early and the tree grows to the sky. It never works. I've seen this Mahomes movie. It's called The Terminal. That's what it is. Took him a while, the Texas Tech years. First year didn't play in Kansas City. Then he has the Hanks run, and he's kind of peeling back off it. He'll come back around. But he talked about this yesterday. When you're as gifted as Mahomes is, you kind of got to let him be gifted. And with the gifts, the left-handed stuff and the sidearm stuff, there's going to be some ugly moments. I mean, that's kind of his game. It's not a real repeatable process like Tom Brady or Russell Wilson where every throw looks the same. It's not like that. A little bit of Josh Allen to it. Way high, and then that's weird. A little bit of Lamar to it. That's amazing. That's awful. That's why toughness is so valuable, mental toughness. For the greatest people, the Peytons and the Favres and the Bradys and the Mahomes, and it's like this. It's not linear. So what about the average players? And that's what 99% of successful pro athletes are. They're very good. It's all over the map. All right, let's talk Dame Lillard. So now there's a lot of rumors, a lot of discussion. What's he going to do? Portland doesn't currently have a GM, so they're in a weird spot. And the late, great Paul Allen, the owner, passed away. His sister now owns the Blazers and the Seahawks, and she's not a diehard sports fan. They don't have a GM. It's a weird situation. And they got time for the trading deadline. But what do you do with Dame? Do you move him? My takeaway has always been he's great, but the only piece Portland has to start a rebuild is Dame. They're not going to get a lot with anybody else. And the Celtics are a perfect fit. So we have to be totally honest, even if we love a player. And I used to work in Portland. I love Dame. Talked to him before, on the interweb. And I think he's a great player. But we have to be totally honest here. This year he makes $39 million. Next year he makes $42 million. The next year he makes $45 million. And then he has a player option where he makes almost $50. He wants 2 more years. I couldn't give it to him. Why? What have I always talked about? He's a smaller athlete. He's a one end of the floor athlete. He's not having a great season. That doesn't bother me a ton, but he's not. He also played 4 years in college. Now, he was hurt one of those years, but he put a lot of wear and tear on those tires carrying Weber State. And then now in Portland, 10th year, he carries the franchise. He is not a young body. This is why the Celtics trade we discussed yesterday works. Because Boston has somebody that's a little bit the opposite of Dame. His name is Jason Tatum. Now, whereas Dame has great leadership skills, that's the knock on Tatum. He's just talented. Whereas Dame has an older body, Tatum only played 1 year of college, and he's only 23. Whereas Dame isn't great on the defensive end of the floor, Tatum's fine. Jason Tatum and Dame, one's ascending, one's an older body who's still great. But if Dame needs to be your number one every night, then you're the Portland Trailblazers. But in Boston, he can be a one occasionally. A 1A a lot of nights, and then other nights he's a 2. And that feels like a team that could get to the finals. But I'm not giving him those extra years. And so if Dame wants that to go somewhere, well, he's going to have to realize then you're going to have a limited roster. I've said this about Russell Wilson. I've said this about, the secret to Tom Brady. He's never the highest paid quarterback. One of the great things about Mahomes' contract, he's a $7 million cap hit this year. And the way they structure the Mahomes deal is that it's totally flexible. They can just keep playing with it and playing with it and playing with it for years. If Dame wants that kind of money in a salary cap sport, then he's going to be the best player. You're not a championship team. You're just not a championship team. If Dame is occasionally on some nights, once every week, the one, most nights a 1A, and several nights a month, the 2 to Jason Tatum, that feels like a team, if you got the right coach, that can play for a championship. Now, maybe Dame likes to be big fish, small town, Weber State, Portland. I got no problem with that. I've worked in this business for a long time. Some people want to stay in Kansas City. They want to be the local anchor, the talk show host, walk in around town. Everybody knows them. I think that's a great life. That's a great life. If you want to be that, that's fine. But Dame's got to be honest here. He's a smaller athlete. He's a one end of the floor guy. The next 3 years, he's going to be one of the richest guys on the face of the earth. He wants 2 additional years, and he's starting to get little tiny injuries here and there, which smaller athletes, which have had to lead their college for years and their pro team for a decade, tend to get. I mean, we're seeing a big athlete now that didn't even go to college, LeBron, starting to get a lot of injuries. And that's a guy that's 7 inches taller than Dame and probably 25, 30 pounds heavier. So you just got it. Dame's got to be honest with Dame now. What do you want to be? If you want to make $50 million a year, you're not a championship player. But if you want to go to Boston, have the money you have, and be willing to be like a 1A or some nights a 2, now we're talking a different arena. Now we're talking playing in June. Now we're talking playing potentially in the finals. So that's where we're at on that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.